Well, the first section of the REM could open in the next few weeks, but of course, fingers crossed there. We just heard of yet another delay. The day when the REM will open appears to be a state secret. A lot of tight lips over when that will actually happen. But we've been hearing yesterday on the program, yesterday during In Transit, in fact, we spoke to a gentleman, Mario Trottier, lives on the Lachine Canal. And ladies and gentlemen, as the REM has been testing, his life has become miserable. He can no longer leave his windows open because when his windows are open, all he hears is the sound of these REM trains. And, you know, it wouldn't be a big deal, I imagine, if it was once per hour. But what's the deal with the REM? It's high frequency. It's every 2.5 minutes, right, during rush hour, every 5 minutes the rest of the day. He's not happy with that noise. So let's take a look here about the excessive noise, the complaints that we're hearing, not just from our guests today, we're getting multiple complaints from a whole bunch of people that live next to the line that say it's too loud. Now, tests are being done right now to gauge the noise level, and changes could be made to dampen the sound. But let's take a closer look at this with Pierre Barrieau, lecturer in transportation and urban planning at Université de Montréal. Pierre, welcome back to the show.
Thank you for having me.
When you started to see these stories that have come out in the last few weeks, residents say it's loud. What was your reaction?
This is typical. Any rail project that is either above ground or at grade that's in urban settings, at the same level as any other type of infrastructure or even industrial project, what happens is there's new noises that are created. And people, first of all, there's a few things. I'm not saying that the noise is above tolerances or lower than tolerances. And that's the first thing we have to check to see, are the noises legal or are they illegal? And if not, it's a question then of, if they're legal, are they bearable or not? But there's always a period of transition where people have to get used to it. When we built the Met in 1959, people complained about the bridge. When we move airport runways, people complain about the bridge. There's a period of adaptation, but that adaptation can only go so far.
Yeah, and bearable is very subjective, right? So one person's bearable can be one person's nightmare. So what do you think there? If the tests come in and decibel-wise it is a little bit too loud, what do you do on that front? Like, what are the ways these sound issues could be mitigated?
Yeah, there's many ways that it can be done. The easiest way, but is also the ugliest way, is to put little walls on both sides of the structure to sort of contain the noise so it doesn't spread laterally, it only goes vertically. That's horrible visually for people looking at the structure, but it's also horrible for the people who are stuck in the vehicles. They're basically in a tin box, akin to the subway, so that's not something that we want. What we want there's a whole series of measures. First of all, it can include adding lubricant to the rails in the vehicles. That can include rail grinding. It can include also putting rubber between the rail and the cement ties to act as an absorber. It can mean maybe slowing down in certain areas, because we have to understand the squeaking of the wheels. What the word in French is le crissement des roues, is when it's in curves, when it's turning. So that's where the most noise is generated. So we might have to slow down a bit in the curves for a little while till we get some of that work done. But most of this can be mitigated, can be improved. And on a worst case scenario, in many areas around the world, sometimes they do have to do mitigation of buildings if the noise is inside. For example, Heathrow Airport, they had to add some sound insulation and into the houses. And in other cities, we've seen replacing single pane windows to double pane or double pane to triple pane. But it's certain that if you're on your balcony flipping burgers, those window improvements are not going to help.
When it comes to slowing down the trains, the REM is automated. It's driverless, right? So that can be programmed, right? You can just actually set up in a program, you're going to go slower during these turns.
Exactly, but it's going to be a question of mitigation. Do we want to lower the risk, lower the noise for a few hundred people, but slow down the commute of
for everyone,
tens of thousands of people every morning and night?
God.
That is going to be a big public fight that we hope won't have to happen in the public arena.
The gentleman we had on the program yesterday says I'm 150 meters away. And I said to myself, well, could they have made a mistake with the route? Was there a mistake made to even bring it that close to buildings?
Well, I don't know where this gentleman is living. However, what I can say is initial plans, the REM was supposed to have an underground portion.
Yes.
It was going to make the route shorter. It would have gone underneath Bassin Peel. And what they decided to do is sort of a really complicated S going around the Costco, going around the Via Rail, and all of this stuff. So if that portion is close to certain residential areas, so that portion, if it would have been done underground instead of above ground, it could have, in fact, helped for that. However, if it was on another section, well, then it might have looked at redesigning it, potentially.
Pierre, before I let you go, let's just get your take on the latest story about the REM that's out. Is that, hey, yep, another delay. It's not going to open just as quickly as we thought, because I think the hope was end of the spring. What's your take on the fact that this private-public partnership seems to be prone to delays and other issues?
Well, all projects and infrastructure of this type are going to be prone to delays. We call them mega projects in urban planning and sociology. And basically, they're projects that are just so complex that it's impossible to fully understand the parameters before you actually start working on them. So you're always going to be hitting pickles as you go down the road. Now, the issue is the following. Are these delays that we're having excessive, considering COVID, considering worker shortages, considering a company in Italy that went bankrupt that was supplying stuff, et cetera, et cetera? I would say no, if we take into consideration, for example, the Laval subway opened a few years late and almost quadrupled the budget. And at that time, there was no major inflation. There was no major issues. So in this case, once again, we're about 2.5 years late. Running apparently about 30% over budget. But considering everything we've gone through during the construction phase, that is reasonable. What's unreasonable is the 6 or 7 year delay at the airport. That is truly that portion. Aéroport de Montréal, I'm sorry, but you never should have stopped construction during the airport.
Yeah.
The people there who said, "Oh, we'll never know if people are going to fly again," don't understand humans.
That is so frustrating, and it just seems like another example, of just getting easy access to the airport seems to be a promised land in this city. Pierre, do you have any connections there? Do you know when this thing's going to open? It's a state secret. Do you have has a little birdie told you the day?
Well, we can know for the REM Phase 1 is going to be easy. Your listeners, what they have to do is they have to watch, and there's going to be a 10-day period where trains are going to be running every 2 minutes and a half during rush hour and every 5 minutes outside of rush hour for 20 hours per day. Mm. If they can succeed that, then they're allowed to announce the 30 days. So once we start seeing those trains running, the countdown has started for the 10 days. If it works, it's perfect. If they have failures, they're going to have to stop. So if it doesn't last for 10 days, it means they've had a failure, and they have to restart the 10 days. So once we've done 10 days and it works, then there's going to be a press conference, the prime minister is going to be there, and they're going to announce its opening in 30 days.
All right, I'm taking out my iPhone timer, and I'm going to start clocking this, Pierre.
So figure September 1st.
All right, Pierre. Man, imagine that. Pierre, thanks so much. Great talking to you.
My pleasure, sir. Talk to you soon.
That's Pierre Barrieau. He's a lecturer in transportation and urban planning at Université de Montréal.